Haven't heard from the Mueller probe in just a few minutes. It's been pushed off the front pages by all the other insanity in Washington. But the probe is still chugging along, and no, it will not be impacted by the government shutdown. But here's something that will impact it. The guy on the left, Matthew Whittaker, the acting Attorney General, says he will not recuse himself from oversight of the probe, even after the Justice Department's Ethics Office recommended a recusal. Plus, Whittaker has been an outspoken critic of the probe, and the man who's been tapped by Trump to replace Whittaker, William Barr on the right of your screen, has also criticized Mueller. Here to talk about that and more, former federal prosecutor Roland Riopel. Well, let's start with acting Attorney General Matt Whittaker. He gets this internal Justice Department ethics opinion that says, you know what, given your criticism of the Mueller probe, you should probably recuse yourself. He can just decide not to?
He can. You know, if you are the Attorney General, you get to make decisions like this. And if you want to overrule your own ethics council, he can do it. The wisdom of that, I think, is to be questioned. You know, if Mr. Whittaker does become an impediment to the going forward of the Mueller investigation, in the light of this opinion, which we know exists, I think he's going to have real political headwinds. I think it would have been the wise, easy political move for him to recuse himself as was recommended to him. And now, if he does take a step out of line, the political blowback will be even stronger.
It does make you wonder what the point is of having an ethics review process in the Justice Department if this whole thing is voluntary. But let me put on my imaginary red MAGA, Make America Great Again hat for this question. What's the big deal with Whittaker not recusing? We know a couple of FBI agents who were investigating Trump and company didn't like Trump, but defenders of the Mueller probe say that's not a big deal. So what's the difference here? Why can't he do his job even though he doesn't like the Mueller probe?
You know, I think you make a very interesting comparison, Andrew, and the point is the same. You may have a personal dislike for a particular individual or a particular investigation, but if you do your job professionally, it shouldn't matter. I think here the conflict was not so acute that Mr. Whittaker had to recuse himself. It just simply doesn't look right for him to stay in the case. But he's chosen to do so, and if he makes good decisions, he ultimately won't be second-guessed. If he makes bad decisions, the second-guessing will be all the worse as a result.
The president has nominated William Barr to replace Whittaker for the full-time Attorney General position. Barr has also made comments that have been critical of the Mueller probe. Should we similarly expect him not to recuse himself? He still has to be confirmed by the Senate. Will that impact any decision on his recusal?
You know, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of decision he makes. He's probably going to get a fair amount of sharp questioning and perhaps even some roasting by Democratic senators on this issue. In light of that, he may decide it's too hot in the kitchen and he will recuse himself, or he may not. If he does not, he'll have the same issues to carry with him that acting Attorney General Whittaker now has, in that he's made public statements that will make it more difficult for the public to believe that he is in fact making decisions on a substantive basis. The blowback will be all the worse for him. So we'll see what he does. Time will tell.
The Mueller probe, Roland, as you know, is just one of 17 different probes investigating Trump world right now. Some of those probes are criminal in nature, investigating his businesses, his foundation, the inauguration, his campaign, his actions as president. Forget about have you ever seen a president being investigated like this. Can you recall seeing anybody being investigated on 17 different fronts at the same time?
You know, in my experience, this is really unique. I have, in my career, both with the government and out of it, seen situations where an individual was being investigated both by the state and the federal government. I have seen situations where there were investigations of more than one sort of locus of criminality for a particular defendant, and multiple investigating agencies. I've never seen anything like this, where you've got the federal government in Washington, the federal government in the Eastern District of Virginia, the federal government in the Southern District of New York State Attorney General's office, and heaven knows who else, looking into this man and his family and what appear to be a good half dozen or more sort of types of criminal conduct. I've never seen anything like it, Andrew.
And
Never.
the easy assumption to make, Roland, is that with so much smoke, there must be fire somewhere. Or is that a jump? Should we not be jumping to that conclusion this quickly?
Well, Andrew, it is hard to believe that with this many very serious investigations, there won't be at least one criminal charge come out of it at the end. And indeed, the Southern District of New York has basically identified Donald Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator at this point. So as to that one, at least, I think it is hard to believe there will not be criminal charges at some point. I think that's equally true with respect to the Trump Foundation, which was so clearly operated improperly. That seems like a lock of a charge by the Attorney General's office at some point. And, again, we know so little about what Mr. Mueller really knows. We'll have to wait and see there, but there is a lot there that seems very dubious as well.
Former federal prosecutor Roland Riopel. Roland, as always, thank you very much. Enjoy the holiday. And, hopefully we don't see you until 2019, but given the state of this White House, we probably will. Thanks, Roland.
It's a pleasure to be here, Andrew. Merry Christmas to everybody.
And up next, the president is facing trouble at home and across the globe in Asia. Things aren't much better. Trade war with China, North Korea acting up again, and more. We've got an expert on the region next.